There are moments in court when everything just stops, not because the judge slams the gavel, not because a verdict is read, but because someone says something and the silence that follows feels like gravity. That was the weight in the air. When R. Kelly took the stand, not as a performer, not as a prisoner, but as a man carrying a truth heavy enough to fracture the image of one of music's most untouchable figures, his entrance didn't scream drama, no media frenzy, no flashing lights. But the atmosphere changed the moment he stepped in. Even Diddy, seated across the room, didn't move, not a blink, his jaw locked tight, like a man bracing for impact one he knew he couldn't stop. R. Kelly sat down slowly. He leaned toward the mic, cleared his throat. What followed wasn't a performance, it was an exhale. A release. He began. This ain't about redemption. I'm not here to clean my name. I'm here to empty it. Then he started telling them everything, not just what he'd seen, what he'd endured. He painted a picture of a world hidden inside America's prison system. A world where names like Diddy didn't fade. They echoed. They loomed. Not like old news, but like shadows that never left the room. He claimed that every time he was transferred to a new prison, the same thing happened. The inmates already knew, not just who he was, but that he was coming. They didn't ask questions. They just gave him a look, a phrase. He knows you're here. No name, no explanation. And yet he said it meant everything. He spoke of inmates who moved through the system like they were above it. Men who didn't wait in line, who ate food that didn't smell like it came from the kitchen. Meals from outside, different, special. When he asked how it was,
very own
always
imprint,
the same
Bad Boy
reply.
Entertainment.
It's
Since their
handled,
initial collaboration, Diddy and
By
Clive Davis
who?
have nurtured
That's
a
when he
strong
dropped it.
alliance,
Shock
albeit
Holmes.
amidst
He
occasional
said the
controversies.
name clearly,
In 2022,
directly.
a notable
No
incident
hesitation.
unfolded involving a
He
figure
said
well
Diddy
known to
had people
both
on the
music moguls.
inside,
Did his frustrations
not
on
just
Instagram,
watching,
pointing out what
pulling
he perceives as an
strings,
unjust
playing
situation in the
cards.
music business
YouTube
involving Diddy.
CTA
According to
before we
Mates,
get
despite
deeper
Diddy
into this
originally acquiring his
testimony, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tap the bell so you don't miss what's coming next. Now, let's go back in. He said Diddy's control wasn't just influence, it was personal, tied to specific individuals. Inmates moved around like chess pieces. Some got transferred alongside him conveniently, others were protected, shielded by guards who seemed to follow different rules. The more he traced it, the clearer it became. This wasn't coincidence. This was strategy. BLUEPRINTED. In Coleman, he recalled meeting someone named Rico, an inmate with unspoken privilege. R. Kelly said Rico was sharp, quiet, always precise, like every word he said had been rehearsed. One night, Rico came to him and whispered, "He wants you to cooperate. It'll be easier if you do." No name again, but R. Kelly said he didn't need one. He knew. The judge shifted in his chair. A juror lost color in his face. But R. Kelly, he didn't blink, because what he was revealing was only the surface. And the surface was cracking. No one in the courtroom made a sound. No rustling papers. No side comments. Just silence. The kind of silence that swallows a room when someone starts telling a truth everyone else tried to bury. The jury leaned in, not because they were told to, because they had to. The judge didn't speak, his mouth clenched shut, hands rigid, because everyone knew this wasn't testimony. This was exposure. R. Kelly shifted and said, "You think prison's about punishment? You're wrong. Some prisons are about power." And Diddy, he had power. He spoke of what he called the system within the system. Not written in any manual, not acknowledged in any official channel, but deeply felt by those inside. A hidden current, a quiet hierarchy, a rhythm that only certain inmates seem to move to. And they all seem to answer to one name, he said. Prison guards would sometimes pass folded notes, never direct, never obvious, but messages like, "Be useful, cooperate, stay ready," words that meant nothing unless you already knew who they came from. Then came the transfers, silent, no notice. No records. One inmate gone. Another suddenly appears fully protected. Fully in control. One of them, R. Kelly recalled, strolled through the hallway wearing sunglasses. In federal lockup, no one questioned it, not even the staff. Those weren't inmates, he said. They were plants, messengers. Some worked for him. Some worked with him. He recalled a night at FC1 Victorville that shifted his entire mindset. Lights out. An older inmate leaned in close, speaking in riddles. You either feed the fire or get burned by it. Nobody leaves the kitchen untouched. Sounded like poetry.
He often felt
Until
pressured
he
to
added,
partake in
Combs
activities
don't
that were
like
detrimental to his
resistance.
well-being,
He prefers
all in the
agreement.
name of
That
fitting in.
man
Aspiring
vanished
music mogul
2 days
who honed
later.
his skills under Andre
No
Harrell
fight,
at Uptown
no
Records,
write-up,
teaming up with
just
Clive Davis,
gone,
maintaining
transferred or
his place in the
silenced.
industry. News
No
of these
one
revelations
ever
has
heard
Fogel
from him
indicate that
again.
he is deeply
Then
concerned
came
about the
another
potential
chilling
fallout.
moment.
Exterior is
R.
showing signs
Kelly
of crack
said
the
he
public
received
persona
a
Diddy has
package
cultivated over the
completely
years.
illegal.
Started with Diddy, and that was
Inside,
like a
a
Hollywood
burner
horror story
phone
playing out
and
in
a
real
typed
time.
letter.
One by
Short,
one, more men in the
terrifying.
industry are
Silence
being
is
exposed.
survival.
About the brand's future
We
and Diddy's
still
ability
got
to maintain
ears.
his business
He said
empire
he
amidst this
knew
potentially
what that
even the
meant.
harshest punishment.
It wasn't
the authorities
just
are
a
reportedly
threat.
exploring these
It was a
tunnels as part of their
reminder.
broader investigation
They're
into
watching
trafficking
me,
allegations
always.
despite the clear
He
evidence.
described inmates
Radikowski
who
called him a
never
monster,
spoke,
adding
but
to the
always
chorus of
sat
voices
close.
denouncing his actions.
One
inactive.
wore shoes
This sudden
identical to a
disappearance
man he'd
has fueled
seen months ago
speculation
in a
about the
totally
brand's future
different
and Diddy's
facility.
ability to maintain his business
Same
empire
stuff,
amidst the
same
scandal.
walk,
It's a
they
stark
knew
reminder
names,
of the shadows
new
lurking in
faces.
Diddy's past. Hilton's
But always
revelation goes
claimed
deeper.
they didn't.
According to
He
Diddy's
called
former bodyguard,
it a
Jim Deal,
pattern, a
Diddy once
loop,
beat
a
Hilton so
network
severely
that kept
that she hid from
rotating
him
always
damage control
in
and public
motion.
apologies,
Diddy
illustrating
wasn't
a pattern
just
of violence
pulling
and manipulation.
strings, he
Hilton's
said.
bravery. Ruben's
He was
accusations
running
go beyond
something
just
alive,
the shooting. She
a
asserts that
cycle
Diddy paid
of
off club
control,
staff to hide
of
incriminating
loyalty.
footage and even tried to
These
intimidate her.
weren't just
Emmer's life of
connections
Sean
for
Diddy Combs
comfort.
is
They
unraveling
were
in a
arrangements
spectacular
crafted
fashion,
for
with
leverage,
each new
for
revelation
silence,
adding to the sense that his
for
downfall
control,
is imminent.
because
The
behind
Revelations
bars,
has
R.
become a
Kelly
relentless
said,
pursuit of truth,
secrets
leaving
weren't
no
just
stone
dangerous.
unturned in its quest to hold
They were
Diddy
currency.
accountable for
He
his actions.
recalled one night during his time in Yazoo, an inmate passed him a cafeteria tray with a note tucked underneath. 5 words scrawled in shaky pen. You were chosen. You talk. Now they'll listen. He never found out who sent it, but after that day, everything shifted. The guards' behavior changed. Inmates stopped making eye contact. And a man who wasn't on staff began mopping the floors near his cell. 3 times a day, like clockwork. No job title. No questions. R. Kelly looked directly at the jury. They think I'm broken, he said. But I've been watching, listening. I kept all of it. And now I'm giving it to you. The judge leaned in slowly. For the first time, Diddy glanced down at the table. Didn't move, didn't blink, but in that stillness, there was thunder. And R. Kelly, he wasn't finished. Not even close. His voice didn't shake, but the weight behind it began to shift. It wasn't fury anymore. It was fatigue, the kind that settles in the bones after years of carrying something no one else can see. Each word he spoke felt like a burden finally let go. Another stone removed from the invisible weight he dragged. Behind him, he said it started to click after his 3rd prison transfer. At first, he chalked it up to coincidence, but coincidence doesn't repeat itself with that kind of precision. Every facility, same signs. Same patterns, conversations that went quiet the moment he walked in. Inmates who watched too closely. Guards who seemed to know more than they should. He described a prison in South Carolina where things took a strange turn. A man known only as Reggie, not his real name, but the only one anyone used, approached him in the yard. You're not here to serve time, Reggie said.
To establish his very own imprint, Bad Boy Entertainment. Since their initial collaboration, Diddy and Clive Davis have nurtured a strong alliance, albeit amidst occasional controversies. In 2022, a notable incident unfolded involving a figure well known to both music moguls hid his frustrations on Instagram, pointing out what he perceives as an unjust situation in the music business involving Diddy. According to Mates, despite Diddy originally acquiring his
started asking quiet questions, gentle ones, nothing obvious. But the moment Diddy's name name even hovered near the surface, people shut down. One inmate told him straight, "Say his name to loud and they move you. Say it twice and they bury you." So he stopped asking, started recording. He kept notes in his Bible, names, dates, whispers, anything that felt off, anything that came back around again. One night, lying in his bunk, he heard voices through the vent in the wall. Two inmates speaking in codes, but one phrase sliced through. He's got one in here now. Same setup, same role. The tone was relaxed, like they'd seen it before, like it was routine. Later that week, a new inmate landed on his cell block. Didn't say much, but R. Kelly saw him go behind closed doors, into the warden's office. First day, no open protocol, just 26 minutes of silence. "That's not intake," he said. "That's business." From that day, things began to shift. At first, it was subtle. His mail slowed. Phone calls were cut short without explanation. A new guard took post on his tire, asking strange questions about his past, his finances, his connections. They were probing, he said, not for behavior, for information, for memory. Then came the whispers that he wasn't being monitored for discipline, but for something deeper, something unseen. He couldn't prove it, but he could feel it. The strange rhythm, the forced small talk, the creeping surveillance. And always after something odd happened, came the same ominous echo. "You know, who's watching? Don't mess this up for him." R. Kelly turned back to the judge. "You all think I lost everything in here," he said, "but I didn't. I found the truth. It was rotting beneath the surface this whole time, and no one wanted to touch it." He paused, let the weight land. "I saw men trade their dignity for protection. I saw staff look away for envelopes, and I saw how Sean Combs kept his empire alive. Even in the darkest corners of this country, there were no objections, no outbursts. The room sat frozen because what had started as a high-profile trial was now something else entirely. The courtroom no longer felt like a place for justice. It felt like a vault cracking open, one secret at a time. And with every word, R. Kelly chipped away at its walls. Court reporters, veterans of scandal and tragedy, began to shift in their chairs. They looked at each other, not with disbelief, but with fear. He took a breath, long, deliberate, as if preparing to walk into fire. Then he spoke about what he called the third layer, deeper than the coded messages, deeper than the inmate networks, a level where manipulation became full-blown control. He described an incident in a Louisiana penitentiary. A guard approached him not with anger, not with authority, but with eerie calm. "Don't speak to the new arrival," he said. "He belongs to someone." R. Kelly shivered. "Belongs," he repeated, "in prison." It didn't stop there. The new inmate never stepped foot in the yard, never ate in the chow hall, but had new shoes, a watch, a phone no one spoke about. He wasn't just protected. He was insulated. And over time, a pattern formed. These men always arrived the same way, silent, unmarked, and always watching. Every one of them had a thread, not a direct connection, nothing obvious, but a trail, a lawyer who'd once inked deals for Bad Boy Entertainment, a cousin tied to the industry, or a blurry photo long wiped from the internet showing a familiar face at a familiar party. R. Kelly said it felt like Diddy had created ghosts,
partake in activities that were detrimental to his well-being, all in the name of
little,
fitting in,
but always
aspiring
had just
music
enough
mogul
background
who honed
noise
his skills
to
under
seem
Andre
real,
Harrell
and
at
just
Uptown
little
Records,
enough to
teaming up
never
with Clive
raise
Davis
suspicion.
and
He
maintaining his
recalled
place
something
in the
else.
industry. News of
Something
these
that
revelations
stayed
has
with
Vogel
him.
indicate
In
that
a
he is
federal
deeply
prison
concerned
in
about the
Georgia,
potential
an
fallout.
inmate handed him an
Showing
old,
signs of
tattered
crack,
book.
the public persona
It
Diddy has
looked like
cultivated
any
over
other
the years.
self-help guide worn spine, yellowed pages, but inside, scribbled into the module. legends were phrases that chilled him for a nose. Don't reject the midnight call.
Potentially
At
even the
first,
harshest
he
punishment.
brushed them off.
The authorities are
Prison
reportedly exploring these
graffiti,
tunnels as part of their broader
nonsense, but
investigation
then,
into trafficking
one night
allegations,
at
despite the clear
midnight, his
evidence.
cell phone
Radikowski
rang,
called him a
not
monster,
from his
adding
lawyer,
to the chorus of voices
not
denouncing
from his
his
family.
actions.
It came from an
This
internal
sudden
extension
disappearance
he
has
picked
fueled
up.
speculation about
A
the brand's
voice
future and
whispered,
Diddy's ability
"You're
to maintain
safe
his
as
business
long
empire
as you
amidst the
behave."
scandal.
Then
It's a stark
silence.
reminder of the shadows
Click.
lurking in
No
Diddy's
name.
past.
No
Hilton's revelation goes
explanation.
deeper.
That
According to
night,
Diddy's
R.
former
Kelly
bodyguard,
said
Gene
he
Deal,
stopped
Diddy once
thinking
beat
like
Hilton
an
so
inmate
severely
and
that she hid
started
from him
thinking like
damage
a
control and
survivor,
public
because
apologies,
this wasn't
illustrating a
just
pattern of violence and
incarceration.
manipulation.
It
Hilton's
was
bravery,
indoctrination.
Ruben's accusations
He
go
began
beyond just
observing
shooting.
everything.
She asserts that
The
Diddy
way
paid off
guards
club
spoke
staff to
to
hide
certain
incriminating
inmates,
footage and
the
even tried to
unspoken
intimidate her
hierarchy.
amorous life of Sean
How
Diddy
one
Combs
man
is
would pass through a
unraveling
metal
in a
detector
spectacular
and it
fashion,
stayed
with
silent,
each new revelation
while everyone
adding to
else
the
was
sense that his
searched
downfall
twice.
is imminent.
There were
And
favorites,
Revelations has become
but
a
not
relentless
because of
pursuit
good
of truth,
conduct,
leaving no
it
stone
was loyalty.
unturned in its quest
And
to hold
loyalty,
Diddy
he
accountable
said,
for his
was
actions.
bought, sometimes with protection, sometimes with contraband, and sometimes with something much more intimate. It wasn't about connection, he told the jury. It was about control. Diddy used relationships like other people use cash, as currency, as weapons. He described a man at USP Canaan. Quiet, educated, didn't move like a criminal, didn't belong. One night, R. Kelly found him crying in the shower. The next morning, the man passed him a small note wrapped in plastic. It read, "I gave him everything. Now he wants silence." That afternoon, the man was transferred. No explanation. Never seen again. The courtroom was frozen. No one moved. Some weren't sure whether to be horrified or impressed, because this wasn't some chaotic conspiracy. It was methodical, layered, efficient, terrifyingly so. R. Kelly leaned back. His breath slowed, the weight of his own words catching up to him.
Establish his very own imprint, Bad Boy Entertainment. Since their initial collaboration, Diddy and Clive Davis have nurtured a strong alliance, albeit amidst occasional controversy.
Was still
in 2022, a notable incident unfolded involving a figure well known to both music moguls, his frustrations on Instagram, pointing out what he perceives as an unjust situation in the music business involving Diddy. According to Mace, despite Diddy originally acquiring his
cracking open, he leaned forward, no longer testifying. He was building a record, dropping evidence from the shadows. He said every prison had a code. Not the ones written in handbooks, but the kind you feel in your gut. When to turn your head, when to keep walking, when to act deaf. And Diddy, he didn't just know the code, R. Kelly said. He wrote it. He described a night at Allenwood. The yard was dark, colder than usual. He'd just finished his walk when a young inmate passed by and whispered. He said, "You're off limits." But only for now. By the time R. Kelly turned around, the man was gone. Swallowed by the shadows. That's when it clicked. He wasn't just being watched. He was being studied, measured. The next morning, he received an unexpected visit from a chaplain. He never asked for one, never signed up, but the chaplain knew everything. His name, his record, even details about his family. At first, it felt like faith, but the questions took a turn. Do you think redemption comes through silence? Wouldn't it be better to protect what little peace you still have? God doesn't require every truth to be spoken out loud. He said. He sat frozen. Then the chaplain handed him a small cloth. Folded inside was a single note. He's listening. No name. But R. Kelly didn't need one. From then on, things changed. Guards started avoiding his block. Mail slowed. Visits were canceled without cause. And then came the man in the blue shirt. No badge. No rank, just presence. He walked right into R. Kelly's space and sat across from him. "Do you want to be remembered or erased?" he asked. It wasn't a question. It was a deal. They offered him things: an early transfer, better food, a quieter block. All he had to do was stop digging. Stop asking. Forget what he'd seen. Then came the real leverage: protection. Not for him, but for someone on the outside. Someone he hadn't spoken about to anyone. "That's when I knew," he said. "They had everything, not just who I was." but who mattered to me. He leaned into the mic. Diddy didn't just control people, he controlled silence. He understood what shuts a man down: shame, fear, or someone you die for. He paused, eyes down now. And when none of that worked, they said the broken ones, men with nothing left to live for. Used as pawns, as pressure, as promises, or as threats. One of them was named Jonas. Big man, barely spoke, but when he did, it was always like riddles. One day, Jonas sat next to him in the cafeteria and said, "You know what keeps the walls standing? Not bricks, secrets," and just like that, he vanished, transferred, erased. By now, the jury looked shaken. What began as celebrity testimony had become something darker. This was a shadow network stretching from platinum offices to steel cages. And R. Kelly. He was unraveling it all, one thread at a time, but he hadn't yet mentioned the place where the unthinkable finally happened. The prison that nearly broke him. He said that story was next. The room leaned in wordlessly. No one blinked. R. Kelly sat still, like a man emptied out by years of silence, but still full of truth to stop now. His voice dropped. Slower. Not for drama, but because the next part was sacred. Yazoo, he said, a federal prison deep in Mississippi. A place you don't get sent to unless someone wants you off the grid. From the moment he arrived, something was wrong. The guards didn't meet his eyes. His cell was pre-stocked, books he didn't request, a mattress that didn't match the others to clean. To ready. It felt like they were waiting for him. Not as a prisoner, but as a participant. At first, things were silent. But soon, the signs returned. The inmate next door never left for chow, but always had hot food. Another had a flat screen. The only one in the unit. When R. Kelly asked how, he was told, earned through loyalty. He understood what that meant. Then came mandatory group therapy, except there was no therapist. Just a room with no windows. A projector showing old black and white footage from the 90s, messages about obedience, silence, submission. One night, his intercom buzzed. A voice he recognized filled his cell. Not a guard, not a warden, a man he once performed with a rumored fixer for Diddy. "You're almost ready," the voice said, "but you need to let go. If you talk, we all bleed." He slammed the wall. Demanded answers, but there was no log of the call. No trace it ever happened. Then, it got worse. Inmates began circling him, not with threats, with questions. Precise. Surgical. What do you regret most? What would you erase? Who do you still protect? They weren't curious. They were collecting. One night, a note slid under his door. He chooses loyalty over innocence. Always. That night, his bunkmate vanished. No explanation. No name. Not even a whisper. R. Kelly said he no longer felt like a prisoner. He felt like a subject in someone else's experiment. Then he was summoned to the infirmary. No illness. No complaint. Just told to show up. Inside one chair. One file. But this wasn't a rap sheet. It was his life, finances, relationships, private messages, and at the bottom, a photo. Blurry. 2006. Him embracing a woman outside a tour bus. Someone no one had ever linked to him publicly. Someone who had nothing to do with his charges. Written across it. 3 words. "We found her." He looked up. Voice shaking now. That's when I knew. This wasn't about justice. It was about ownership, about breaking you, piece by piece. Until you'll do anything to stop the pain. He paused, swallowed hard. I almost gave in. I almost made the call, told them I'd play the game, that I'd forget what I saw. He looked down at his shackled hands. But then I realized, they don't just want silence, they want your permission. They want you to help them control you. So he started writing. Smuggling memories on scraps of paper, memorizing names, faces, dates, because even if he never got out, I wanted this truth to escape. The courtroom didn't breathe. Diddy didn't move. But his stillness felt like a storm. And R. Kelly, he wasn't done. The next chapter was the one that would end all silence. It would be the place where the line was crossed so deep, even inmates whispered about it like folklore. That, he said, was coming next, and it would be the part where even guilt couldn't shield Diddy from the truth, because now the fear in the room wasn't chaos. It was realization that the world was never what they thought, and R. Kelly, once a superstar, now a broken witness, had become the voice of a nightmare no one dared imagine until now. He leaned forward, the chains on his wrists scraping softly against the edge of the wooden witness stand. And then, with a calm that shook the room, he said it. USP Atlanta, a prison with history. A prison with silence so thick it could smother a man from the inside out. But R. Kelly said it wasn't the building that scarred him. It was what lived inside, what moved inside, what ruled inside. He had only been there a few weeks when he spotted it, a pattern, a group of inmates, maybe 5, maybe 6. Men who never walked together, never spoke openly, but somehow always showed up in the same rooms at the same time. Always a step ahead, different names, different cells, different routines, but their eyes all carried the same signal. We serve the same king. That's how he described it. An invisible council, no meetings, no phones. Just movements precise, rehearsed, and unchallenged. Over time, he understood why they were more than inmates. They were gatekeepers, curators of secrets, the ones who carried Diddy's hidden gospel inside the walls. Then came the night that changed everything. He was summoned. Not asked, summoned to the chapel. The room was dark. Only moonlight crept through the stained glass, slicing silence. Into shadows, he walked in, expecting stillness, but 2 men were already waiting. Neither spoke. One handed him a folded note, then nodded toward the door. He didn't open it until later, alone in his cell. It read, "If you want peace, play your part. If you want war, tell your story." He didn't sleep that night. Then the shift began. His commissary, once restricted, suddenly overflowed. A new mattress appeared, books he hadn't requested, and then a transfer to a quieter tier. At first, he thought it was kindness, a reward, but it wasn't comfort. It was a cage, a soft trap, a leash disguised as a gift. And then came the visit. No family. No attorney, just a man in civilian clothes with eyes that belonged to something older than the prison. The visit was never logged. Guards stepped aside without speaking. And in that sealed room, the man spoke in a voice rehearsed like a lullaby. "You've been loyal. We see that. But you're starting to get restless. That's dangerous." R. Kelly said he didn't respond. The man leaned closer. "You don't have to understand the full picture. You just have to survive it." Then he slid an envelope across the table. Manila, heavy. Inside, photographs. Some of R. Kelly himself, some of strangers, and one that made his stomach turn. A young inmate. Couldn't have been more than 20. His arms wrapped around someone, face blurred, but the chain around that person's neck, it was unmistakable. The same chain Diddy wore. In a 2004 MTV interview, R. Kelly whispered it in the courtroom, almost afraid to say it louder. That boy, he was passed around like a package. And no one asked questions because everyone knew who was behind it. A gasp cut through the silence. Someone in the gallery dropped their pen. He looked up, voice low but fierce. "That's when I broke. Not when they threatened me. Not when they tried to buy my
very
silence.
Own imprint, Bad Boy
But when I
Entertainment.
saw the
Since their
cycle,
initial collaboration,
saw what this
Diddy
really
and Clive
was.
Davis have nurtured a
Not
strong
punishment,
alliance,
ownership,
albeit amidst occasional
grooming,
controversies.
and Diddy
in
was
2022,
at the center.
a notable
From that
incident
moment
unfolded
forward,
involving
he
a figure
said, the
well known to
countdown
both music
began.
moguls. His
Because
frustrations
now
on
he wasn't
Instagram,
just
pointing
a
out what he
prisoner.
perceives as an
He
unjust
was a
situation in the music
liability,
business
a
involving
loose
Diddy.
end,
According to
a
Mase,
threat.
despite Diddy
He was
originally
transferred
acquiring his
again. They called it a safety move, but when he arrived, the whispers were already waiting. Why'd they move you? You talking now? They say you know things. And he don't forgive twice. He turned to the judge now. Then to the jury. I'm not asking for sympathy, he said. I'm asking you to understand. I'm not brave. I'm not strong. I'm here because silence was killing me slower than prison ever could. But even then, he wasn't finished because there was one last truth. One name, a name that connected every dot. A name buried deeper than the rest, and now he was ready to say it. The courtroom became still, unnaturally still. No one shifted. No one cleared a throat. Even the walls seemed to lean closer, and R. Kelly didn't look tired anymore. He looked hollow, like a man who had carried too much for too long and was finally laying it down. But what he said next wasn't just a revelation. It was a detonation. He took a breath. Let the silence stretch. Then spoke it. Andre. It hit the room like thunder inside glass. He clarified before the tremors could settle. Andre Harrell, the late music mogul, Diddy's mentor. The man who helped build his empire from the beginning. He didn't say the name with venom. He said it like a surgeon, cutting into infection. That's where it started, he said. Andre didn't just teach Diddy how to build. He taught him how to disappear, how to blend power with purity. How to make music louder than the screams. How to make art the camouflage. And most importantly, how to use people as currency. R. Kelly said that even before Diddy had fame, he had blueprints. And Andre was the architect. He remembered one moment clear as glass. Early 90s, a party in the hills. No cameras, no plus ones. Just certain artists, all invited, and all trained to forget. He remembered Diddy pulling him aside and whispering, some people build fame, others build loyalty. Guess which one lasts longer? Back then, he didn't get it. Now, he couldn't unsee it. He described a network, not of individuals, of systems. Andre laid the foundation. Diddy expanded it from the music industry into the prison system, into broken places, places already heavy with shame. Where silence didn't just live, it thrived. He said those prison relationships weren't for love. They weren't for lust. They were tools for silence, for manipulation. Andre taught him. R. Kelly said how to make people complicit in their own exploitation. And he admitted it. He had been one of them. Not by choice, but by slow design. Comfort offered when he was most fragile. Praise when he was desperate. Isolation disguised as protection. And when he was finally boxed in, they offered him the only thing that could shut him up, a chance to belong again, but he turned it down, and that made him dangerous. He told the court that same network, the one built inside prison walls, had limbs outside too. Lawyers, handlers, therapists, not paid, just indebted. It was a system built on generational silence. And every route pointed back to Andre. He reached slowly into his jumpsuit, pulled out a folded note pre-cleared by the court, unfolded it with care, and read it aloud. Legacy protects him now, but legacies crack, speak, and become the hammer. He slid the note forward toward the judge, then looked up. You want to know why I'm talking now? His voice softened because they weren't going to stop. Not unless someone finally said his name, not unless someone broke the chain. At the root, he sat back, chains glinting under the fluorescent lights. I'm not just a witness, he said.
He often felt pressure to partake in activities that were detrimental to his well-being, all in the name of fitting in. Aspiring music mogul who honed his skills under Andre Harrell at Uptown Records, teaming up with Clive Davis and maintaining his place in the industry. News of these revelations has Vogel indicate that he is deeply concerned about the potential ball exterior is showing signs of crack the public persona Diddy has cultivated over the years.
Had shattered the illusion. And now, with Andre Harrell on record, he wasn't retreating. He was pause charging, he leaned into the mic again.
About the brand's future
Voice
and Diddy's
calm.
ability to
They
maintain his
always
business
thought
empire
we'd protect
amidst this
them
potentially even the
because of
harshest
what we
punishment.
had to
The authorities are
lose.
reportedly
But
exploring these
survival
tunnels as part of their broader
stopped
investigation
being
into
enough.
trafficking
He
allegations.
said there were
despite
still
the clear
people
evidence.
inside.
Ratajkowski called him a
Still
monster,
playing
adding to the
roles
chorus
they
of
were
voices
forced
denouncing his
into,
actions.
still
Inactive.
terrified,
This
not of
sudden
what might
disappearance has
happen
fueled
to
speculation
them, but
about
of
the brand's
what
future
might
and
happen
Diddy's
to the
ability to
people they
maintain his
love.
business empire
He
Is
amidst
to
paused.
establish his
scandal.
very
It
own
started from
imprint,
a
Bad
shadow
Boy
working
Entertainment.
in
This
Since
is a
their
young
initial
man.
Hilton's
collaboration,
revelation
Diddy
goes
and
I
Clive
won't
Davis
say
have
his
nurtured
name.
a
Former
strong
bodyguard,
alliance,
barely
Diddy
19.
albeit
Diddy once
amidst
beat
occasional
so
nothing
conflict.
but a
severely that
second
she
In
chance.
confronted
2022,
damage
a
control
notable
public
incident
apologies.
unfolded
Told him
involving
to
a figure
silence
well
to
known
keep
to
him
both
safe.
music moguls
Hilton's
But the
and his
moment
frustrations on
accusations go
Instagram, pointing
beyond
out what he
just
fed
perceives
into
as
the
an
public.
unjust situation in the
Weeks
music
later,
business involving Diddy.
tried to
According
take
to
his
Mace,
own
despite
life.
Diddy originally
They called it a
inquiring
medical
Sean
emergency.
is
No one was
unraveling in a
punished.
spectacular fashion.
No
with
one
each new revelation
investigated.
adding
They
to the sense
just
that his
moved him
downfall is
and
imminent.
started
And
again.
Revelations has become
That,
a relentless
R. Kelly
pursuit of
said,
truth,
is
leaving
what
no
this
stone
system
unturned in
does,
its quest
not
to hold
justice,
Diddy accountable for his
not
actions.
reform. Harvest. He admitted he'd been silent for years, afraid, convinced that men, like Diddy, weren't protected by money, but by myth. The legacy. The illusion, the mask, but then something changed him. You know what finally made me speak? He asked. He lifted a wrinkled yellow envelope. A letter from someone no one knew. A former inmate, not famous, not rich. Sent through someone on the outside, too afraid to mail it from within. He said he'd seen the same things, remembered the same names, and the last line. It broke me. His voice cracked. Please, speak before I disappear too. He placed the letter gently on the stand, like it was holy. That's why I'm here, he whispered, because if I don't speak, the ghosts they keep making will keep multiplying. Then he turned to the jury. Locked eyes. They won't come for the rich or the powerful. They'll come for the broken, the ones who know just enough to be dangerous, but not enough to be protected. Finally, he looked at Diddy. No rage, no fear. Just the weight of a man who had finally dropped everything. What I told you today, it's just one piece. You want the rest. He looked around the courtroom. Start by asking who's not here. Start by counting the names that never made it to trial. And listen closely to the silence that costs lives. He leaned back in the chair, eyes steady, chain still and silent. For the first time since this testimony began, Diddy moved. His head turned slowly, deliberately, and locked eyes with R. Kelly. Neither man blinked. Because this wasn't silence anymore. This was war, and truth had just drawn first blood. The courtroom froze. Not with fear, not with awe, but with a quiet so absolute, it felt sacred, like the last breath before a storm. Something heavy had entered the room, and no one could pretend it wasn't there. Everything that needed to be said had been said, but still, the air vibrated, like one last truth was clawing its way to the surface, refusing to stay buried. R. Kelly didn't flinch, didn't tremble. His back was straight, his wrists cuffed, but his voice was stronger than steel. He didn't need volume, didn't need theatrics. Because sometimes calm is louder than rage. And then, with a slow inhale, he began to speak again, but not about names. Not about systems, not about the empire that stood behind Diddy. This time, he spoke about what came after. They're going to say I'm lying, he said. That this was all an act. That I'm just trying to take someone down now that I've already fallen. He let that land. But the truth is everything they could take from
activities
me,
that were detrimental
they already
to his well-being,
did.
all
My
in the name of
name,
fitting in
my
an
freedom,
aspiring
my
music mogul
dignity,
who honed his
gone.
skills under
He
Andre
looked
Harrell at
straight
Uptown
into
Records,
the jury
teaming up with
box,
Clive
but
Davis,
one thing they couldn't
maintaining his
steal
place in the industry.
is
News of
this.
these revelations
He
has
pointed
Ogle
gently
indicate
to
that he
his
is
throat.
deeply concerned
My
about the
voice,
potential fallout.
he scanned
Exterior
the
is showing
room
signs of
jury,
craft, the
gallery,
public persona
press,
Diddy has
like
cultivated
he
over
was
the years.
daring anyone to deny him. They built an empire out of silence, covered it in charm, protected it it with celebrity,
about the brand's future,
but the
and Diddy's ability to
foundation
maintain his
was
business
always
empire
fear,
amidst this potentially even the harshest
exploitation,
punishment.
control.
The
He
authorities are
rested his
reportedly
hands
exploring
on the
these tunnels
stand.
as part of their broader
What I
investigation
lived
into
through
trafficking
wasn't
allegations
just
despite
one
the
man
clear
doing
evidence.
bad
Ratajkowski
things.
called him a monster,
It was a whole
adding to the chorus of
machine
voices
keeping him
denouncing his
clean while he
actions.
did them.
Inactive.
He
This
paused
sudden
the weight of the
disappearance
moment
has fueled
thickened
speculation
like
about the
smoke.
brand's future and
You know
Diddy's
what's
ability
worse
to
than
maintain
being
his business empire
controlled?
amidst the scandal.
Watching
It's a stark
others be
reminder of the
controlled,
shadows lurking
knowing
in
you
Diddy's
could have
past.
stopped
Hilton's
it.
revelation goes
But
deeper.
you didn't
According to
because
Diddy's
you were
former bodyguard,
scared
Gene
or
Deal,
paid
Diddy once
or
beat
too
Hilton so
proud
severely
to
that she hid from
admit
him
you were
damage
just
control
another
and public
pawn.
apologies,
Then he leaned
illustrating
into the
a pattern
mic.
of violence
Every
and
courtroom
manipulation.
wants
Hilton's
evidence.
bravery.
Paper
Rubin's accusations go
trails,
beyond just the shooting.
witnesses,
She asserts
but
that Diddy
sometimes
paid
the
off club
most
staff to
damning
hide
evidence
incriminating footage
is
and
what
even
you
tried to
feel in your
intimidate her
gut when
amorous
someone
life of Sean
speaks
Diddy
the
Combs
truth.
is unraveling in a
Nothing left to
spectacular
gain
fashion,
and
with each
everything
new
to
revelation
lose.
adding to the
That's
sense that
when he
his
began
downfall
to
is
describe
imminent.
the letters.
And Revelations
Letters
has become
that
a relentless
started
pursuit of
pouring
truth,
in the
leaving
moment
no
his
stone
cooperation
unturned in its
became
quest to
public.
hold Diddy
Letters
accountable
from
for his
former
actions.
inmates, from the families of boys who never made it home, from former staffers who couldn't sleep anymore but still couldn't testify. Most didn't include names. Some didn't even sign, but all said the same thing. We saw it too. He reached for the file beside him, slid open one final envelope, pulled out a photo, crumpled, faded, but unmistakable, a young boy in an orange jumpsuit. Couldn't have been more than 18. Behind him, a man in a suit, not a guard, not an official, just someone who didn't belong. He held it up for the judge, then laid it down on the stand. No one asked where that boy went. No one blinked when he vanished, but I know. And I know who made it happen. And today, I made sure. His silence doesn't die with him. He leaned forward, voice sharper now. Diddy isn't just a name. He's not just a brand.
Rubin's accusations go beyond just the shooting. She asserts that Diddy paid off club staff to hide incriminating footage and even tried to intimidate her amorous life of Sean Diddy Combs is unraveling in a spectacular fashion,
I cracked one
with each
open.
new revelation adding to the sense that his downfall is imminent.
You can't
and
unhear
Revelations
me.
has become a relentless pursuit of truth, leaving no stone unturned in its quest to hold Diddy accountable
lowered on
for his
his
actions.
nose, but something in the courtroom had shifted. Something permanent. Even the lawyers on both sides seemed stunned, not by the content. They expected explosions. What they didn't expect was this kind of precision, this level of calm fury, this chilling clarity, and just when it felt like the moment was over, R. Kelly added one last truth. They built a fortress of fame around him, but no fortress stands. When the voices inside finally become louder than the walls, he leaned back. The shackles on his wrists clinked one last time. No grand exit. No applause. Just silence. But not the silence that shields, the silence that follows something too loud to ever be ignored again.